Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandellen. So when I was a little kid, my family traveled to Minnesota, and I can't remember if it was Minneapolis, Rochester, somewhere in one of the bigger cities, and we were at a mall. And I remember we walked into this convenience type store, like a Walgreens, Rite Aid-esque type place, and we were walking down the aisles, and somehow I got separated from my parents. I don't remember how, I just remember being lost. And in that moment, I must have been calling out like, Mom, Dad, as I was kind of getting more and more scared. And this nice guy walked up and said, "Hey, it looks like you're lost. I actually know your mom and dad. Why don't you come with me and I'll help you find them?" I didn't really think twice. I thought, this is awesome. This dude knows my parents. Let's go find him. So as we walk towards the front of the store, all of a sudden I hear my mom yell my name. And so she was at the front of the store, or like right at the opening into the main mall, because they had been looking for me. And so I turned, I had this guy's hand, and I turned and ran towards my mom. And my mom grabbed me and hugged me, and I started to explain to her that there was this nice man who apparently just disappeared. Just a little bit blurry in my head right now, but the guy just wasn't there anymore. He just kind of took off the moment my mom yelled my name. But my mom, after she embraced me, she had this moment where she kind of pulled me away from her and was ready to tell me how wrong I was and how bad I was and don't ever get lost again. I don't know what would have come out of her mouth, but she pulled me away, looked me in the eye, and pulled me back in and hugged and started crying and hugging and crying. Right? Everything in our world tells us that no, like, you need to teach this kid a lesson. Honestly, it strikes me as the craziest thing that I guess I was almost kidnapped. And nothing was ever said about that again, because I came back to my mom and she was so happy that I was there. See, this is the story of the prodigal son too. The story in the Bible is very similar, but we still want to fix things. We want to correct things, right? I've heard that the Buddhist version of the story is that the son comes home and the dad makes the son work for 20 years to pay back the money that he had squandered. And I don't really care that it's the Buddhist story. To be honest, it's my story too. It's how I would write it. I would write, no, you pay the price for what you did. But that's not what happens in the story. See, in Luke 15, around verse 17, the son comes to his senses, and then he runs home. He decides, he says, you know what, right now I'm feeding pigs, and I think I'd be better off even if I were my dad's slave than to be doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back. I'm humbling myself. I'm going to go back, and maybe he'll take me back. And so as he gets home, it says in the Bible at verse 20, Luke 15, 20 through 24, that the father sees him off in the distance and starts running. See, the father doesn't run out to greet him and say, "What have you done? You've done this, you've done this, you've done that, and you need to fix it." No, instead, the father hugs him. The son starts to tell him all the things that he knew he did wrong. "Dad, I'm sorry. I've sinned against you." And the father says, "Son, you're home. You were lost, and now you're home. Now you're found." He starts telling people to go get clothes, get new sandals, put the family ring on his finger, because you're my son. Let's kill the best calf we have, the best of the best, nothing spared, because you're home. The dad throws a party. And my friends, God wants to throw a party for you. God wants to not only throw a party for you, he wants everyone to come and be a part of that as well. And so last week we talked about coming to our senses. At some point we need to kind of assess where we're at. We need to realize that maybe we're not as close to God as we want to be, or maybe the life we've been leading isn't adding up. It's not fulfilling us the way we'd like it to. But this week, I want to challenge us to consider how we might take a step closer to God, how we might begin to move towards him, and how we might make the decision to come home. So if this is the first time you'd ever make that decision, I encourage you, either reach out to me or find a pastor near you that you can talk to and ask questions about what it looks like, because God wants to party with you. If you've been at this a while and you just feel like you've drifted a little bit, it's okay to still turn around. Even if you feel like you might have known better, turn around, come home to God. He wants to party with you. And if you've been at this a while and you feel like you're close to God, I also want to invite you to the party because God wants you there. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more about your role, but God wants to party for you and with you. So come home. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow us each week, click here to subscribe. And if you want to take it a little bit further, click here for discussion materials.